Thanks everyone for coming today. How are you feeling so far? Thank you for the, if you want, there's probably more room on this stage for a few more chairs. Like when we say fireside chat, we really mean fireside chat. We're gonna get cozy. So this is an informal conversation. So we're gonna go through a couple questions and introductions here in a minute. But just so you know, for the format of this is one of the few panels that we're doing in part of the breakouts. And we really want it to be an opportunity for you to have a dialogue and learn from people that have paved the way before you, that have done what you've done, or maybe they can learn from you based on some of the things that you might be a step or two ahead on some of their journeys. But to get just as a quick introduction, I'm Jared Lees with Domo, and with us today we're representation from Yum Brands. We heard on main stage today, Yum. A lot of people, I've spoken with Yum before, they're fantastic. Most people know them of like KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, like that, yes. We were gonna throw out soft tacos, but legal stopped us on that. We also have Marriott with us here today. And Marriott's fantastic. I try to get them to throw out like free night stays, but I don't know if you have that authority. So real quick, let's go ahead and do some introductions. And I'm just gonna turn it over to the Yum team first. Go ahead.
Yeah. So David Hargens, I've been with Yum for about 4 years now, and Domo customer for about 13. So I've implemented Domo at 6 different companies, and yeah, it's been a good run with this.
Yeah, for sure.
David, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How's it like interacting with your AE with Domo?
Steve-O's a handful.
He's in the back room. I had to throw that.
Yeah, we have to do that.
So I'm Levi Butler. I've also been with Yum for about 4 years. David and I worked together previously at a different company. So same story. I've been using Domo for about 9 years. Also stood up a big instance at another company before this. So kind of the same stuff, different data, right?
Oil and gas.
Yeah, we were oil and gas before, but I mean, data's data, widgets are widgets, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, now talk a little bit about Yum, if you don't mind, just to kind of introduce the scale and the scope and what you're doing there.
Yum is a very, very big company. So like they see here, 155 plus companies, over 1 million employees, almost 60,000 restaurants. We've got in our instance like 22,000 users now. So big instance, huge company.
And how big is your team that supports it?
It's only 5 of us, and that's really recent. For the first 2 years, it was just the 2 of us. And then we've had a third since about that point. We just picked up 2 more like 2 weeks ago. So.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Levi. How many of you have a team of 5 or less? Yeah, so you can relate, right? And then that's one of the things we want to showcase today is like the scale or the potential. The amount of people on the team doesn't necessarily limit that. So we'll learn a little bit more about how they did that here in a minute. But let me introduce the Marriott team. So we have Charles and George. Go ahead, Charles.
Hey everybody, great to be here. My first Domopalooza, first time in Utah. So I've been with Marriott for 11 years. Been in the BI space for about 8 or 9. Very new to Domo, about 2 years in. Prior to the role I'm in now, I managed the Marriott's Tableau server enterprise deployment, but recently moved over to the Marriott Digital Services team, which is an internal digital marketing agency. We're an opt-in service, and we work with hotels that need help with things like search engine optimization, paid media, general SEO stuff. So.
Awesome. And George?
Hey, what's up, everyone? George Enos, and I've been with Marriott for 13 years now, in the BI space for the last 5. Prior to that, I was working in Salesforce architecture. So I love to build with data, love to form order out of complexity, and it's great to be with others who feel the same way. It's not often that we get together like this. So this is my second Domopalooza, and I'm excited to hopefully give back through this presentation and also learn from everyone throughout the conference. So great to be here.
Thank you. And why don't George, or Charles, whomever, you can share the mic or talk together. Just tell us a little bit more about what, because when I think of Marriott, I mostly think of like, okay, the Spring Hill Suites next to Disneyland, and does it serve breakfast for my kids? But that's not necessarily what you're in charge of over there, right?
No. So Marriott is a substantially large company. We have over 9,000 hotels globally. I think our last big acquisition, right, was Starwood when we integrated. But we're a franchisee operation, right? All of our hotels are franchises. So we work with management companies who need help optimizing their website or want to run, campaign performance. So we work with the hotels that you're referencing that you stay at with your kids, but we also work with very luxury upscale hotels. So we have a wide array of hotels that work with us that are by the airport or their city center, or even those luxury destinations globally, worldwide.
And now, since you have the mic, let me ask you another question about just kind of the customers that you serve. So within your organization, what is your typical audience, or who's consuming the data that you're producing?
Sure. So like I mentioned, and I have it up here on the slide. So we have about...
It disappeared. Oh, is it on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yep. We work with about roughly half of our entire portfolio. And those hotels we work with, they're actually ownership, franchise, and management companies. So we're creating dashboards in how their digital performance is performing. I don't know anybody who's familiar with hospitality space, probably not many of you, but there's many different ways a person can book a hotel room. We strive for those folks to book direct and preferably through digital. And the reports we deliver to our stakeholders are primarily focused on the digital booking experience as well as traffic, how it gets to the website. And it's working again with directly franchise ownership groups, management companies.
Thank you. And I want to ask Yum the same question, so I'm going to you next. David, who do you typically serve in terms of the data and things that you push out?
So our customers internally is the entire organization. So every main function, finance, food safety, who's here on the front row with us.
Do you need to say anything specific to help solidify that relationship you have with the food safety team?
No, that's already there.
All right. Okay.
But we do all of our internal functions. We do our finance, corporate reporting from there. We don't report to the street from there, but we have data that's pretty much cloned to mimic what goes to the street so that you can analyze it in real time. And then we do restaurant and franchisee reporting as well for speed of service metrics, for quality metrics, pretty much anything. Sales reporting, we're working on a big project right now to unify all the sales data, get the schemas all the same globally and all that. It's rather big, if 75,000 stores or 60 to 75,000 stores and all different POS systems, nothing with the same schema. It's fun. Let's just put it that way. You want to add to that?
Have any of you had trouble working with different data schemas, or is it all pretty, consistent?
Yeah, nothing is the same, right?
Yeah. Now, is it safe to say, like, if I'm like the general manager or of a Taco Bell, would I subscribe to some of your services?
Yeah, indirectly. We use Embed to feed all of our metrics to anybody at the store through something called Super App. It's our own in-house app that we have, and a team member from the store can go log in and see any of their metrics, and it's all passed through Domo with PDP policies and an embed, right? So they can go see any of their metrics there, or when they click on it, they'll go back into Domo for deep dive analysis or sentiment analysis, anything like that.
Now, I get the sense, I'll ask you one more question before we go back to Marriott team, that you might have a playbook, because you've done this a few other times, as you mentioned with your introduction. I'm going to ask two questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
One is, what is like a consistent thread you've seen as you've gone from place to place in terms of like implementation and trying to reach a large scale? And the second part of that is like, what have you learned or adapted or had to change to as you've gone from place to place?
Really, I mean, one would think the grass is greener somewhere else, right? So coming from oil and gas, we came into a bunch of disparate systems, and everybody had their own way of doing things and silos, right? So the playbook that we had was the integration part of it, right? Like we've done that so much that it's easy for us, and we came in with our own ways of doing ETLing and data modeling, and we brought that along with us, and it made the whole process easier. But you still have the disparate systems. You still have systems that you have to get rid of and replace and do the right thing with that. There's no real easy button or playbook or recipe that we could make for that, other than just saying that we were experienced in getting all of the connectors made, right?
Yeah. I would say that I've been pushing to change our group, the name of our group within the company, to automated analytics. That is what I strive for, and it's same story no matter where you are, right? If you've got a human being like manually doing reports more than once, like stop that. That's what computers are for, right? Like give those people that time back to do their job, because typically the reporting part isn't part of their actual job. Give them that time back so that then they can go home to their family earlier, right? Like that's one of the major consistencies for me. It's just anytime people do repetitive stuff, like let's teach computers to do that instead, right?
Got it. Thank you. Now, George, I want to come back to you real quick because you mentioned in your intro that you like to make complex things simple.
Yes.
Can you give an example of what you did at Marriott?
Sure. So within our Marriott Digital Services organization, we operate as kind of an in-house agency, as Charles mentioned, for these owners and franchisees. And there's so many disparate data sources, right? We've got data from our Snowflake instance for our brand.com website. We have SEO performance data coming from a vendor. We have a paid media team running the full menu of digital media. And so if you are an owner, if you're an asset manager, if you're a franchise management company representative, you do not need to go hunting for all of these sources individually, right? So that's the complexity. So with in our initial implementation with Domo, we were able to connect to process via data flows, get these all into nice, easy to consume Domo dashboards that focus on our top KPIs, which for us, our North Star is kind of digital room night mix. So so if you're booking this hotel and you booked it through their website, their brand, their main website, it's going to be a more profitable business than if you were to book it via an online travel agency where you pay a commission. So really everything we do in Marriott Digital Services is to drive that metric, right? And so we also need to report out on how do all of those individual efforts, SEO, if we build a website for property or a group of properties, all that data in one place, easy to consume for the owner or the franchisee. And that's where Domo really excelled and helped us do that. And we'll talk more about like the next level of that. So we started with dashboards, and now we're in App Studio, which we're really excited about. But yeah, from complexity and disorder to kind of lowering the entropy of that whole system to a nice, cleanly organized system.
Nice. Just a follow-up to that, George, or Charles, either one, but with that, or do you want to add to that? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the one thing to layer into that is the world we came from, or the BI tool we came from. We're relatively new to Domo, about 14 months. It was a very fragmented experience. As a digital marketing agency, we have tons of content that we try to provide to all of the different users we have. Domo really helped us kind of embed and create a singular, unique experience, which George was some of the mastermind behind, and which really created this one-stop shop where they can come get content about the content we're creating about our programs, but also click a link and log in and view their embedded dashboards that we've created for them. So we went from almost a fragmented experience to a seamless integrated experience, all in one place, centralized hub, really cool stuff.
How did you decide the metrics and KPIs to report on? Was that something that you kind of pushed down onto the franchisees owners, or is that something you had to work in collaboration with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we have North Star metrics at our corporate offices that we do push down, but also we do source feedback from our franchisees from a digital perspective. We do kind of generate a lot of feedback in what they want to know about. All of the metrics are unique to the digital channel. So think about like how traffic's getting to a website, how folks are engaging with websites, and how does that layer up to what George was talking about is, do they ultimately book digitally direct? As he talked about, right? That's our drive direct strategy. So there is a lot, there is some collaboration, but ultimately all of these metrics are really derived to drive this direct strategy that we have. So we think it's kind of like a top-down approach with some feedback, but ultimately all pushed by that North Star metric.
Got it. I'm gonna go back to Charles and Levi over there, or David and Levi, sorry. Have you ever heard of the acronym AI?
Too much lately. But no, it's something that's going to help us out quite a bit.
How do you think it's gonna help you?
I mean, just with simple mundane tasks at first, right? Until we get really good at it and actually start using it for some deep sentiment analysis or food safety issues or predicting what a certain restaurant's going to do based off of the behaviors that it's gotten its super app checklist, right? Like there's lots of ways that we can use that, but as we're still cleaning data and still trying to get standard schemas and still trying to streamline all that for performance-based issues, right? Like we have to get all of that done before we can get in. We have shirts made now that say no data, no AI. So, and we've been passing them out around the company because it's true. Like we can't do the AI piece without the data being clean or standardized at least. I mean, I think we had 22 different ways to calculate same-store sales growth. So like when you think about that, it's, and then 22 different ways across the brands and the markets, but then at the corporate level, we had a singular way, which had a 5-page PowerPoint deck for it. So way too complicated, right? So we've sat down with finance and sat down with the leadership team and standardized that from a global level and then pushed it back down. And now that's the approach that we're trying to take with that and with all of our metrics for the most part.
Nice, thank you. Charles, do you have?
AI, that's something we're trying to grasp our heads about and how we roll out to our hotels as well. Our dashboards today are very prescriptive, right? We're providing very summarized dashboards about performance previous. First, we want to get to a level where potentially AI is explaining what is happening to them, but to these guys' points, right, it's going to take some standardization of data before we get there. I think the other aspect to that too is internally from the engineering side, whether it be dashboard engineering or data engineering, is leveraging AI to create smarter code, right? So I think we're still trying to figure out how to best use it. We're at the very beginning of this journey. We learned a lot already today. Shack GPT we're hoping comes soon. But yeah, we're at the very beginning of this journey and we're here to learn more.
Okay. I think that was my, do you want to add something, George? No. Okay. That was my obligatory AI question, so I think we're good. We can check that. Back to the Yum team. You have a large audience using the data, right? How do you work through adoption efforts to make sure people are using it correctly or getting the answers that they need?
So what I try to do whenever we take over a function as far as reporting wise, we try to replicate what they have. So they're used to seeing what they have in Domo in either an app or a page, a dashboard, a standard page, whatever, right? But here's the table that you've seen for 35 years. You're good. Like we give them that so that they can at least fact check the data and make sure that they're comfortable with the numbers that are coming in, right? Because that's the hardest part is getting people to trust it. Then once we do that, then a couple weeks later, we'll start modifying and changing up the dashboard and the way that it looks and give it a more streamlined approach and more visuals instead of tables and drill downs and all of that. And that's where we start to see the real impact because people are like, oh, I didn't even think about looking at the data like that, right? Like I didn't think to visualize it that way or, and then you start working with the functions hand in hand and start saying, oh, well, could we do this? Could we do that? And then it's an evolving machine, but what we try to do is make it an ecosystem to where the function has a data leader embedded in that function that works with us as an extension of our team. So that person is Kristen in here for food safety, right? So she handles all of the ETLing and all of the modeling of the data sets, and then we provide assistance with that. But she mainly handles that part of it for food safety. Finance has a person like that, so each one of our main disciplines does. And that keeps us from having to hire more headcount on our side. We can be creative still, but deliver a product that actually adds value. Yeah, I know you got something to say.
From a more specific case statement, we talked about this last night. I created a workflow last week that we've got like our finance security table. So you've got a user and what this user is allowed to access, right? More often than not, that user never logged into Domo. They don't even know Domo exists. But when their name gets added to that list, it kicks off a workflow, creates their user, which kicks off the PDP and group management policy stuff. So then their PDP gets applied to the data sets. They get added to a group that then receives emails. Like just by adding someone to that security group, they start receiving emails from Domo like the very next day, which we saw like an immediate bump in. Obviously, our users went up because we created them manually, but they started logging in like immediately. I could see whenever it brought their like their SSO information. We've got it set up so our SSO will bring in more information about this user. So you can see the day that I ran it for the first time, it added like 700 people, and it was like instant. I started seeing that stuff getting filled in because they were logging in. So it's like really organic, easy way to drive that engagement as well.
Nice.
And that was just mainly from cost center reports, right? So like department P&L basically. So here your department P&L came to you in an Excel spreadsheet before. Now we've automated that. And then overnight there's 700 to 900 new users just giving departmental reporting back to the management teams, right? And there was 17 revisions of that page before it actually went live. Just because of finance wants one way, somebody else wants another. And we're trying to mitigate that as best as we can by saying, okay, we'll give you best of both worlds for now, but we want to unify that so that there's one report so that we can take advantage of not having to have 5, 10 of the same reports existing in the same place.
Now, I want to ask the Marriott a similar question, but before I do, is there anybody in the travel and hospitality space in the audience?
Okay.
Oh, nice. From a hotel chain, from Marriott? You used to?
I'm a hotel revenue management company.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to be careful because I want to, with the Marriott, from what I understand, your audience, you might have a franchisee or group owner, and they might have a lesser hotel in their portfolio like a Hilton, right? I want to make sure I don't get in trouble. But like similar, like you have this, like Yum has this audience of users that work for the company, but your audience doesn't necessarily work for Marriott all the time, right?
Correct.
So how do you promote adoption and usage and make sure like they're getting the value for what you provide?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll pass it to George for some of his thoughts on this too. But ultimately, right, we do have ownership groups that have Marriotts, Hiltons, Hyatts, et cetera. It's a balancing act because, right, they have their own systems where they need data and that they probably look at everything together across different brands and portfolios. And Domo can sometimes play that role of if they don't need a dashboard per se, like how can we get them the data that they can use in their systems, right? An egress pattern to some degree. But ultimately what we try to do is provide a best-in-class experience for the Marriott hotels using Domo embedded by just creating really unique, fast dashboards. I will say one of our SLAs for us, and this is near and dear to my heart because I came from, this isn't a knock on Tableau, but
It's okay if you want to. I'm okay with that.
who's familiar with the wheel spin when you're trying to load a dashboard, whether it be Cognos, Tableau, or Power BI? What we strive to do in our SLA is dashboards should render in 10 seconds or less. That's a max. If it's taking longer than 10 seconds to load, I've already lost my focus and I've moved on to something else. So we try to deliver this best-in-class experience by listening to them to develop those metrics, creating as fast as possible solution, but also a unique experience that is really provides all the context to the digital performance as it relates to Marriott as they can. But there are some areas where franchisees and ownership groups, they do just need the data for their own systems, and we're trying to work through what's the best egress pattern for that so that they can use their own systems as well.
George?
Nailed it.
All right.
I feel bad for George because I'm really in his personal space right here. I did take a breath mint before I got up here, so we should be okay. Let's just go one more question then, and then we'll open up to the audience to hear from you. So Charles, while you and George still have the mic, what's next? Like what's on your roadmap next in terms of data strategy, reporting, et cetera?
Sure. So when we initially implemented Domo, there was no App Studio, and now there is, and it actually solves for a lot of problems that we were facing. So a lot of our dashboards are they're very large, right? So there are multiple pages, and there's a lot, ton of data, and it's a struggle to present that in a way that is a great user experience. So with the introduction of App Studio, if anyone's not using, definitely recommend checking it out. The features that really took us to another level were the ability to persist filters and the ability to persist variable controls. So whereas previously we're using a DDX brick HTML navigation bar that would take you from one dashboard page to another, this is in embedded analytics. and each time the user clicked that navigation bar, the frame had to reload, the data had to re-render, and it had to pass the variable control that's controlling what dates you're looking at, because the user only needs to input the dates one time, and that needs to persist across each page. Now, with the introduction of App Studio, what's next for us, and we're well on our way there, is to lift and shift these core deliverables that we have from Domo dashboards that use the DDX bricks, and they work, but they were problematic for us sometimes. And now in App Studio, we have a nice clean user experience where the user is going from one page to the next with the tab feature, the date parameters being passed because of the persisting filters. So we're going to keep going with the migration over to App Studio. We're very interested in some of the new features that are rolling out. I don't know if I was in CAB, so I don't know the customer advisory boards. I don't know which ones I'm allowed to talk about or not, if I'm giving away information, but there's good
You
stuff
can start
coming.
talking if you want, and I'll just say stop. Do we have anybody from product in here? I can't see with the lights. We might be okay for a little bit.
There's just a teaser. There's some cool stuff coming in for App Studio.
Maybe one thing you're excited about.
The report builder layer.
Yeah, report builder.
And then we're like Charles said, we're here to learn about AI. We're just looking to take those initial baby steps and start to prepare our data for things that we don't know what we're going to do today, but we want to just not get left behind like Josh was saying today.
Cool. Charles and David and Levi. Sorry, you guys are all.
That's
I
okay.
can't see it very well. I see. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get there. Yum team. What's next on your roadmap?
So we are a heavy Snowflake user, right? So we created something called the Global Data Hub, which is our branded Snowflake environment internally. But now and we're using Cloud Amplifier quite a bit on top of that. And so now with the new features that are coming out for the Cloud Amplifier, like the pushback logic to where we can like write the SQL code back into Snowflake itself, and then have the engineering team kind of go back and check over the code that we wrote in an Magic ETL. We can use that as a stage gate of approval for our engineering team to actually go and check that code and push it out to production, rather than them having to go back and do all the legwork beforehand. So that's going to cut out some time and make things more efficient. Yes, I like to call us the pre-engineering group, right? So like we do all the quick and dirty analysis. We build the data sets for version 1, and we kind of either leave it in production or we kick it over to the engineering team if we need to. Some of our data lives in Domo entirely. Majority of it lives in our global data hub. But utilizing the global data hub or the Cloud Amplifier connection to it is going to be the big thing that we work on now. That and standardizing schemas and getting all of our data like for like.
And AI.
On top of that, yeah.
So you have heard of AI before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's open up to the room. Do we have a mic in the back to run? Awesome. Are there any questions? Let's just have some questions from the group and for the Yum team. This is on the record, so if you want to catch them recorded, you're welcome. We can start there, or you can think about what you really want to ask. Any questions from the group, from the audience? Yes. We have a mic coming just so we can hear you.
So 6,000 to 7,500 plus locations for the Yum team, 5 people. That is incredible. As far as centralization goes, how do you guys tackle about getting locations and bringing them into the fold? Is it, you bring in a couple hundred at once, or is it, how do you manage that?
So I will say that our team is 5 people. Like the analytics BI piece is 5 people. We have a massive data engineering team that's doing all that work. So we're consuming their hard work for sure.
Okay, I thought I was missing something big here.
Yeah.
It's like I need what they're doing.
Yeah.
How big is that team, Levi?
I looked at it the other day. I think Debbie's got 40 to 50 people on her team, somewhere in that range. And that's just Debbie's team. Traditionally, each brand had their own team as well that had a handful of people on it. So it's big. Yeah, that data.
So I think we talked to Debbie next.
Yeah, Debbie's great.
I don't know who she is, but I hear she's great.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to add on top of that, we just centralized our entire D&T team from across all brands and regions. So we pulled all of those data D&T people from each brand into our organization now so that we can try and centralize that. So it's a big help there because we don't have to worry about silos forming in each area anymore. They're all a part of the same big silo, right? But we're standardizing the way we all work together. It's changing the way that we do things. I mean, it's amazing how much standardization actually helps, right? When you actually can enforce it. Yeah.
I've got a background in process improvement, right? So to think that KFC is solving the same problem that Taco Bell is solving at the same time is crazy to me, right? So what we've done should get rid of a bunch of that, right? Like we're all on the same team. We'll actually speak to each other now, and we won't have to solve the same problem 4 times, 5 times. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
And at the transaction level, right, like when you look at the data sets that come from each brand, the transaction level, the data is the same other than the brand name, right? When you get into product detail, that's where everything starts to change for each brand. But 90% of the reports that we've ingested or created from the data that we've ingested we've been able to use it at scale because the data is like for the most part. We might have to transform some columns because the schemas are different, but with that master data set that we've created enables us to do everything in one place on one report, which is handy, right? Rather than having to have all the different versions of those reports.
Got it. Other questions?
That's unfair.
This is
I got more if we need.
all right. So this is for any of you guys up there. So we're a smaller company, and we are a team of 1 right now. So
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me right now.
Congratulations.
So we are hiring 2 people, but we're in Little Rock. So if anybody's looking, just hit me up. But we're trying not to be a report building team, focusing more on the data engineering side. So with that comes a host of issues potentially where you promote that hub and spoke model where all of your users have editor access. So of the larger companies, how do you control that? Are all your users editors or are they participants? What do you do to kind of prevent the mess, if you will?
So we're read only. We try to make the data as standardized as possible across the definitions, what it means, how to interpret it. But what we like to do, and right now we're still in kind of the infancy of Domo and trying to teach people how to fish to get to, I think, to where you're talking about. But we're still read only, and we've gotten by with kind of trying to curate data sets that are simplified. Terminology is easy, they get it, that they can use, but also dashboards have really everything they need and they can also get it. I think we're doing like ad hoc requests now, but we are trying to get to that next level of like teaching people how to fish, but we're just trying to avoid the challenges that come with that. And I think if you think about how the industry is evolving is this universal semantic layer that I think I've been talking about for like 5 years in the metric store. I don't know if anyone knows that term. That kind of died out. But I think we want to get to a place from self-service perspective where we have this universal layer and everything is defined centrally. And then we can start to push those data sets out that people can then start to play with when you know they're not going to do anything dangerous like create a new metric that is the same metric that already exists or something to that effect, right? So I think that will also help with some of the things from AI, but it's all about that data standardization. And then once you feel confident with those data sets and you've defined them and they're kind of locked down, I think enabling those end users to use those data sets to get what they need out of it.
Yeah, and for us, we have in our SSO environment, we have 900,000 employees, right? So franchisees, employees, corporate, everything. So everybody, even our vendors are in our SSO environment, right? So that gives us an advantage and a disadvantage. So if franchisee X, let's say Collins Food Group, that owns multiple restaurants outside of our network, right? Like other brands, comes in and tries to build something in there for that other brand, we have to set up alerts and monitoring to see who's adding stuff to the instance, so that way we can say, hey, no, that doesn't belong there, right? Because everybody is an editor when they get added to the instance. So it's a pain to maintain and watch over that, but I think it's one of those double-edged sword type things, right? Where
Speak about that Pizza UK,
what about that?
the massive savings from a guy that we didn't expect it to come from.
Oh yeah. So internal audit did an AI tool where it went and looked at Uber Eats transactions that were canceled or couldn't deliver, and prior to that, all of this was just being done via spreadsheet. So all of it was kind of sitting on the table, and it would take months and months and months to get it done, or it just wouldn't get done, and that money would be left on the table. Well, we ended up finding around a $2 million cost savings just with Pizza Hut UK on dropped deliveries and orders from a random person in internal audit that was doing one thing. We took that same model and scaled it out to the entire company for the entire Uber Eats platform. So imagine that savings across all of that's being pushed out. But to go back to what you were talking about the users, right? Like you just have to manage the users and make sure that you're watching that and alerting yourself on what's going on in the instance. It's worth it to have the guys in there creating their own thing. Just you have to watch over it.
I guess in short, we have official reports, we have official metrics that those are locked up and they don't get messed with. Anything else, like go ahead. You might be the one that does like that guy did and save us an insane amount of money every year, right? So I think that's the way we manage it. You've got official stuff and you've got ad hoc stuff.
All right. Another question? Yeah.
So for Marriott this time, you guys said half the locations. You centralized the data for half the locations. First question is why half? And then you guys were also talking about prescriptive data. How prescriptive are we getting?
Yeah, first half, so why half hotels? We're an opt-in agency. Hotels don't have to work with us. We actually pull in data for all 9,000 hotels. So if a hotel does decide to work with us, we have their historical data, their dashboard's loaded, they can see everything. It's just we're using like RBAC, where like authorization with Salesforce based off folks that are enrolled and opted into our programs. But we do pull in all that data. It's just a matter of if they work with us. They don't have to. They can work with a third-party agency if they want. We're cost recoverable, though. We try to pass these savings on to owners and franchise groups, and that's our selling point. We want them to work internally. It'll save you money as opposed to working with third-party agencies. So we have all the data. It's just we're delivering dashboards to those that do work with us.
Well, and Charles, just real quick before you go, George, you have data that they can't get externally too, correct?
Absolutely. Adobe, does anyone work with Adobe here? We've had a real challenge of any sort of row-level security with Adobe. I don't know if anyone else has had that same problem. So we do a lot of connections with Workbench or Warehouse, engagement type metrics with a lot of our different websites. We have like 1,200 different off-platform sites. So for example, a hotel may have a restaurant. We build them a site. It's technically off-platform. We capture that Adobe data and we'll send it to Domo and we'll create and spin up dashboards about that outlet. There's problematic data sources where you can't necessarily set up this row-level security. That's where we can help in some of these third-party digital data sources, kind of bring that in, and we have that kind of security layer set up, showing them only the data that's relevant to them based off their products.
Yeah, and to the second part, and using the same example, so we have that enterprise-wide data in the platform, and one of the things we'll do with that for one of the 4,000 properties is show them how their performance stacks up against a benchmark set. So we have ETLs that push out benchmarking, and now the benchmarks are based on the enterprise-wide data. And so we'll tell an individual property or a portfolio of properties, here's how your property or properties are performing against this KPI, and here's how it performs against the benchmark set. So we're telling them that, and they say, okay, well, now what? So where we want to go with that, and we have a whole CS team that will review that report with the user and give recommendations. But as we start to think about use cases for AI and getting the more away from the current prescriptive state, we could dynamically make recommendations on what tactics from our paid media team might be a good fit, or what content on your hotel website might take your conversion rate from here to there. So that, and here's the next step to do that, just to keep the loop of engagement going. That's ultimately going to push those performance against benchmark up. So yeah, that's like I said, that's what we're kind of here to figure that one out.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. We are at time, right? The clock only worked half the time, so I'm not sure we're okay, good. I'm getting the thumbs up or down. I'm deathly afraid I'm going to fall off the edge here. So, but if you want, let's continue the conversation. We do have another group coming in, but we can continue out in the hallway if that's okay with the team up here.
Not a problem.
And we'll just kind of continue some of the questions. But thank you so much, all of you. Really appreciate you coming up on the panel. Thank you, audience. Thank you for participation.